So I'm not sure how many people find this interesting, but I thought I'd show it. I'm working on an 1845 skid steer. I'll get this, made by Case, and it's a tired old beast, but the bones are good, so I'm trying to resurrect it because I like Tonka toys. So far I've redone cylinders and a lot of engine work. Had to replace the oil pan because it was stove in, and it just piles up, hose repairs and God knows what all else. Anyway, today's little project, part of it, is the fact that on the right side of it, it didn't have a fender. Now the fender is 1/3 of the bottom cage, and the 1845 was a weird skid steer. You can probably see it if you look it up on the web on YouTube, because there's somebody who's taken and done a video with the cage pulled loose. But there's a roller right down here, and there's a roller right here that mounts on the back of the fender that is supposed to ride in that track right there. This. They fill up with gunk, and they don't gunk. Thank you. I got to talk today, and they don't want to move, and they're really a pain. So somebody took the fender off of that side over there, the right side, after they had a whole bunch of trouble with the chain case. I've got videos of all that, even though I haven't published them yet. And left the fender on this side. That's sort of not helpful. When I bought it, it didn't have a fender. But what I do have is a perfect mirror image pattern. So I've taken the fender off, and I'm marking it out on a sheet of 1/8" plate steel. We don't want to talk about how much that costs. The fenders are unobtainium. This is an early model, so the cage, the fenders, and the front piece bolt together. On the later models, they are welded solid. And the only thing you can find at the recyclers are the welded solid cages, and they're like $1,800, and shipping is going to be a bear. If you look at the size of it, that fender is, well, that's a 4x8 sheet, and I'm less than 3 feet left. So the fender's over 5 feet long. The box is almost 4 feet wide. So you would have to pallet ship a big old chunk of steel with everything, including those internal mounts where the seat goes and all that stuff, all welded on. It's an expensive little puppy to buy and ship. So what I'm going to try and do is take this fender and mirror image it. Now, it'd be nice if I had a bender, but I don't have a brake at all. There are some tricks you can pull to make this thing, and I will try to videotape it as I'm going along. Since it's hard for me to set up video and do stuff, I'm slow, and my videos take too long. But you can, where the bend is, leave little 1/4" segments of the bend and do a straight cut the rest of the way, bend it over, weld it back, and apply grinder on both the inside and the outside to make it look nice. And honestly, the underside of it doesn't really matter because it looks to the outside world and will actually run into nothing. There's really not much to see, and if the weld's a little crappy under there, like, who cares? Anyway, so I'm going to make a mirror image of it. Now, the only nasty part of a mirror image is if I just roll this, I'm going to measure the outside dimension of the entire thing, and I'm going to make the bends a little too wide. The fender would end up a little wider than it should be. So I have to pull in this bend point here just a fraction, and when I stand this up and clamp it, I'll have to pull in that bend point just a fraction, and then I've got this back edge bend point here to put a 1/2" lip on it that I've also got to turn over and weld in. All of that is going to be a pain. It'd be great if I had a press brake. So great. And then when all of that is said and done and I've got it all pretty, I got to make this piece, because that piece is what rides on those little roller wheels that are stuck. Case had a great idea with a really tough skid steer, But their execution on the cab and how to get at the hydraulics underneath of it is kind of, yeah, it ain't great. The lifting cab came after their bright ideas. Prior to that, everybody had to take them all apart. Yeah, it is what it is. So I've marked all the holes. I've scratched them, painted them with a paint marker. You can see that yellow paint marker there, and if you look in the holes, you'll see they're yellow painted. So between the two, I should be able to find them all. And if not, I'll clamp the whole thing together and drill it in pattern, except for that one hole in the back that I can't get to. There's one hole underneath. You can see it back in there. It's underneath the lid, which is going to make it real hard to do. This is a pattern drill. So that one we have to get accurate without screwing it up. And I'm going to scratch this and mark it. Because it's a lot of straight cutting, the easiest way to cut it, I think, is going to be to use a circular saw with the diamond steel cutting blade. And I'll just go ahead and cut the thing, make the long cuts, and do the minor small cuts with whatever. If I have to, a plasma torch, a regular torch, something. But like this little knockout out here is really the only problem. That piece in the back, which is supposed to go and leave an open spot back there so you can, quote, grab it and pull it forward. Good luck with that. It doesn't work. Anyway, that's the project. And I'll take more video as I go. Okay, so I'm going to be grunting and groaning here for a minute. That was about 2 hours and not a lot of fun. But here we go. Part of the problem is the saw I was using with the metal blade is just plumb wore out. It was in a flood because I hate using good saws. Anyway, the fender on this side is all nice and yellow and rust. Has a bunch of holes in it. The fender on this side is cut. You'll see that the seams are cut in here. I'll come along, we've got a kind of an angle here. I'll come along and weld that in small stitches. You don't want to weld a whole lot because if you put too much heat in it, you'll warp it to pieces. But yeah, that's the shape of what I need to go on the other side. There will be much welding and sanding and painting and whatnot. But in a little while, I'll have that piece made. And then I got to make that guy over there. That may almost be easier to do the two bends on it and then cut it out. I don't know. I'm going to think about it. I got plenty of extra steel to play with. Most of the rest of this 1/8" steel has got to come fix this thing back here. I don't know if the light's good enough, but nah, the light's terrible. I got to get the light on it. But the back grill is made out of 1/8" bars, 1/2 inch wide, that protects the radiators. And as usual with any skid steer, it's been smackered many times and it needs a new one. So I'm going to have to cut a bunch of 1/8" bars, and I think what I'm going to do with that is just give up, cut them with a plasma cutter because it'll be faster. That saw won't cut straight. It keeps wanting to turn left. It is really hard to get a straight line out of it. So my lines here look terrible, but since I'm going to weld them anyway, who cares? You know, good enough. That's the whole thing. So that was my night. Anyway, this will continue.